Today, we're going to take you behind the scenes to a place that you don't ever get to see on the cams, and talk about something that you don't get to see on the cams. That's bear management. And this is bear management may seem like a strange topic. How do you manage bears? But that's just what we're going to talk about. Hi, I'm Ranger Naomi Boak, and I'm a ranger here at Katmai National Park. And my guest today is Ranger Nick Duell, who is a bear technician here. So where we are standing today is just behind some utility buildings here, and behind me that way where some ranger cabins are. And this area here is where we see a lot of bears roaming around camp, and you don't see them. There are no explorer cams here. So bears are managed here for various reasons, and I'm going to have Ranger Nick come and tell us all about that. And oh, I wanted to say that today I'm going to be behind the camera asking questions to Nick so that we maintain social distance. All right, I'm going to start. Nick?
All right.
So this is Ranger Nick.
Hello, folks. Hope everyone's having a day.
It's a little rainy here, but we're happy to be here. So Nick, why do bears need to get managed here at Brooks
Right.
Camp?
So here at Brooks, we have bears. It's one of the highest concentrations of bears in the world. And we get a lot of visitors during a normal year. This year, we didn't get so many because of COVID. But we have a few objectives, in bear management. One is we don't want bears to get food conditioned, where they associate us with food, and we don't really have that problem. That was a problem in the past. We get isolated incidents, like the one right next to us. It's a great linseed oil spill of 2020.
Do you want to tell them what the great linseed oil spill was?
Yeah, so we were staining the side of the building with linseed oil, and the oil bucket was accidentally spilled on the ground. It was almost a 2-gallon bucket, and the bears, were very, very attracted to it. And so they, we had, in a few days, we had 30 bear in camp incidents related to that. So they kept coming back to it. They were eating the oil, they were digging. And so just 2 gallons of oil, they have all the salmon in the world to eat, but something new, something interesting, that's why any kind of food that's could be really small, we're concerned about, because they're always looking for a novel thing to eat. And so we just, we don't want that to happen at all. We don't want them to get a taste of anything.
They're very smart and very curious.
Yeah.
And so what the cam viewers don't see is they don't see the bears in this area. Now, you don't manage bears outside of camp, right?
No, occasionally. So on the road, the Falls Trail, if we get sleeping bears, if they're down for a certain amount of time, and we may consider moving them. It's not the best place to sleep, where we have lots of people walking by. The bears will likely choose that spot because of the people in a lot of cases, and because they have visibility, on the trail, and they can see both ways. But
so
mainly,
is that protect them
camp.
from people? Is that, or from other bears?
I think it definitely, it's protecting them from other bears. Like we saw the other day, we saw the bears right at the Falls Trailhead, where you have the Falls Trail and you have the Valley Road, and so the bears can see bears coming from the Falls Trail, and they can see both ways down the Valley Road. And rather than sleeping in the woods, they get, they can see in all 3 directions bears coming where they generally come from.
So my understanding is that bear management is really a way of managing the some of the interaction between people and
Hmm.
bears, and preventing bears from doing damage to property, because there's not really property they can damage very much out at Brooks Falls or other areas in the developed area, but here they can do a lot of damage. So um, first, I want to ask you, was bear activity very different in camp here this year from last year?
Yeah, it was a lot different. I mean, the activity was probably like 5 times more in
Wow.
camp, and so um, and there's a number of reasons. I think so. Our bear management staff got out here late, and we weren't hazing bears as early as we usually do. So they were getting kind of comfortable in camp, doing whatever they wanted, and but then also fewer visitors. So um, we didn't have overnight visitors in the campground or the lodge. So just that it, the bears were getting up on the porches. Watched cubs from different family groups getting up on the windows and looking. I think they were looking at the reflection, and so there's paw prints on almost all the windows of the lodge cabins, and and getting under the cabin. So that cabin there and another cabin over at Overlook, we had cubs digging under the cabin for whatever reason. Then now they usually don't do that when people are present. Less they get up on the porches, but not as much when people are in the cabins. They know they can smell very good. So
Do you think that the number of family groups had any effect on the number of mischievous bears in camp this year?
yeah, I think that just increased the possibilities. Like my list, I have in my phone 15 family groups different family groups that I've seen, and it's almost 30 cubs. So I mean that's an incredible amount of bears, and
How many
so
how many family groups last year did you count?
I think it was quite a few too, but it wasn't. I don't really remember. I know it was less, nowhere near 14. But and then some of them don't spend that much time around camp or the lower river. Like 128, we rarely saw her down here much.
Hmm.
She was up at the falls or below the falls, and so that has a lot to do with it. Some females with cubs will just hang out a lot on the beach right by camp and lower river and in near camp, and so um, just the more time they spend around here, the more they explore different things and discover like wader boots, life jackets, um, things that they like to chew on,
Yeah, lots of things to
chew
chew on.
toys.
Chew toys,
So
yeah.
that's one thing that's another of our objectives is to try to prevent them from chewing on our stuff. That's kind of novel in their environment. This huge park, there's only you know there's not much development in it. So here they're curious. They find something they like to chew and they'll continue to do it. And then another thing is we get digging. We got a lot of digging this year of our water line. Um, and so it was just a whole host of things that the bears were doing that were, you know, creating issues for us. But, we just do our best to mitigate those.
So
So,
you mentioned before the word haze.
mhm.
Briefly tell us what hazing is, because sometimes people who don't know what that is may get upset
Right.
that hazing of bears goes on. And I know for me that there are different techniques. I know you as a very considerate hazer I might say. But last night I needed you. I had a bear jam. There was a family group right in front of the bridge,
Yeah.
and they were sleeping. And I'm comfortable hazing a bear that's chewing on the bridge
Right.
or trying to climb a bridge, but I am not comfortable hazing a family group, a mother and cubs, when they're asleep. So, can you briefly tell us just what hazing is?
Yeah. So where we haze bears, I'll start with that. So we have an invisible boundary around camp that if the bears cross that boundary, um, we basically will kind of harass them, and that's what we call it. And that involves clapping and posturing, um, scuffing our feet. Um, Julie, she uses a trash bag, makes a loud noise sometimes when she can't get a bear to move. Um, use rocks, throw them on the roof. Any kind of loud, sharp sound. Usually the bears, it's kind of a to them. They don't really, and I don't really want them to see me as a threat when I'm hazing them. So I want them to be relaxed. So I'll talk to them, hey, how's it going? You know, I don't want to be like, hey, you know, where they're going to get nervous and, you know, I want the bear to stay relaxed but kind of be annoyed. And as soon as it leaves that camp and crosses that invisible boundary out of camp, we leave them alone. So this is the only place where we call a bear free zone. And the bears learn the zone, and we communicate to them that okay, we don't want you here. you can be over here. And also when they're chewing on something or getting up on the porches or the floats of planes, we haze them, and so we're trying to teach them that we don't want them to do that, and that's this is just how we do these things so we can kind of coexist here, we can operate here, we keep the bears out of trouble, and bears that if we just let them in camp, they destroy everything. They've had lots of close interactions with people that wouldn't be good for a lot of reasons,
Yeah.
and they're more likely to find something, food or something, and so there's a lot of reasons why we don't want them in camp, but we definitely don't want them to leave this area because we're all here. Most of us here are here for the bears. We want to see them, and so
So, we had a Bearcam viewer ask a question. Do you use their the bears' numbers or names when you're talking to them?
yeah, occasionally, and that's I don't do it often, but you know I don't know. Most of the time I don't, but some bears like 910 because that'll be an extended hazing session with her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So
so because she almost everything that we do, all our hazing techniques, don't work that well on her.
so do bears recognize you as someone who hazes them and gives them a problem? Like
Mhm.
if you're on the bridge
Right.
or they encounter you in camp, do they suddenly go, "It's Ranger Nick"?
Yeah. Yeah. I think they definitely do. I mean, you think about dogs, they can recognize their owners, and you know, and I think the bears can distinguish bear techs from other rangers. And when I show up and they're just out of camp, I'll just stand there sometimes, and the bears will just kind of look, and I won't even have to do anything. And I think they get it. But if it was someone else, they might just start walking in their direction, expecting to get out of the way. But they know we don't like to yield to them, you know. So I think they're definitely capable of that. And
So when you're hazing or interacting with a bear, are there certain does a bear have language
mhm.
that you understand that tells you, oh no, this bear is gonna chew me, or this bear is not going to do anything, or this bear is going to run away? What kind of signals do you get from the
Right.
bear?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and the more you watch bears, and I'm sure like bear cammers know, the bears are very, they watch each other. They're very observant, extremely observant. And they're communicating with each other through vocalizations, through scent, um, and through posturing, like their positioning. Um, and so they use those same signals towards people in a lot of cases. Luckily, not all of them. Like running up and, we luckily that does. But we get, so some of them, like vocalizations, um, are a good one that we pay attention to, like jaw popping, which is kind of like a throaty, like clock, you know. Um, and that's when a bear is usually stressed over something. And usually you see that with females with cubs around camp. When another bear is around and it's jaw popping, uh, you know, to kind of like give her some distance and not, usually I don't haze them when they're making those sounds. The other one is huffing. That's another one. Females with cubs, like female when might lose a cub, she'll walk around and maybe that's she's trying to communicate to the cub, or she's just trying to signal that she's stressed and don't come anywhere near me.
Yeah, when Holly's cub
Yeah.
insisted on following me off the valley road
Mm-hmm.
and kept coming and wouldn't take no for an answer. The only reason it went back to Holly was because she huffed, and I wasn't sure if
Yeah.
she was huffing at me or huffing at the cub, but it worked.
Right. Well, they'll huff to they'll go up to a tree and kind of bay up it, and then and do a little huff, and the cubs will tree. Yeah, so they're definitely using that to communicate with their cubs. Um, Another one that you know, when you're really close to a bear will blow, you know, and it happened to me with 435. She was sleeping. I didn't know she was there, and I walked up maybe 2 yards from her, and she kind of backed up and made that blowing sound. And luckily she's most of the time very relaxed bear around people, and that's a big thing. Is like I said before, I want the bear to be relaxed. Bear that's relaxed is safer to be around. If the bear's nervous and you can sense that it's nervous, that's a more you want to give that bear distance. In a lot of cases you know that would be a more dangerous situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think we try to communicate to visitors here, is that you don't need to be yelling down the trail. A
Right.
calm voice is much better, because then they know, oh, it's one of those calm humans that I don't have to worry about,
Right.
and I can just walk by. It's not a problem. But I think that they hear the tension in our voice, I
No,
assume.
no question. And I think so my first season, this is my third season as a bear tech. My first season, I had a lot more bears testing me, and will run at me, give me a charge, but it had some charges. But I think being the first season, I was kind of learning as I go, but I was nervous around bears because we get fairly close to them, in a lot of cases, and the bears pick up on that, and I think they react, they change their behavior in a lot of cases. Like I've one case that is memorable was last year, 708 and her two spring cubs. A guy encountered them on Dumpling Hill, and he freaked out, ran, and they followed him all the way back to ranger station.
That's
And they
a
were all
long.
excited because he was excited. They were just like, "What is this guy?" Just curious. The Cubs were leading the chart, the way for 708. But so they're definitely, just and similar to a dog, they'll feed off and you're giving out.
So we, especially bear cam viewers, know this. Bears are very different from each other. They bear cam viewers follow the bears as individuals, and so I would love to get some examples from you about differences in individual personalities of bears in reaction to your work. Like you talked about 128.
Right.
Um, a lot of viewers see her Grazer attack the most dominant bears and think, I would never want to run into Grazer on a
Yeah.
trail. How is Grazer with you?
Yeah. So like I said, she this year she didn't spend much time down in the lower river or in camp, as far as I saw, and so I think that had to do, well, and then when she was here, she's very nervous, always jaw popping, and so we give her distance, and we kind of take it easy on her.
But you don't feel like
But
she's going to Grazer you.
no, no, but the fact she's nervous kind of, um, kind of, is a little concerning. But she's not. I've never had her react defensively or heard of her reacting defensively. Like if even my first season, she ran towards me and a group of people to get away from a male bear, and just stopped right by us and was using us as a shield. So I don't, um, she's just, you would think like she might be like 284, where it's kind of more just defensive, the way she acts towards other bears. 284 acts like that towards other bears, runs them down and charges them.
Well, she
And
charges you a
right,
little, right?
right.
So,
But
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
so 284, yeah, she does go, is kind of defensive towards bear management. However, it's interesting how her first litter, she was very nervous. This year, like we were talking earlier today, she seems much more relaxed. I mean, we get the interesting thing she does is towards us is stand up, and she'll put her arm up and pound the ground, swat it. For whatever, no other bear here I've seen do that, but she'll do that to like intimidate us or, um, so, but with her, like I still know she has that behavior, so I'm still careful with her. And since I've had so many interactions, I kind of know how far away to be from her. I know, what I shouldn't do for whatever reason. Scuffing, I've seen her charge just on one scuff, full on charge.
Wow.
You.
Wow. I mean, I think that's really telling, and I always say to people that if I encounter a bear
Mm-hmm.
close to me, I'm almost never take a picture because I'm watching the bear for
Right.
What signals that bear is giving me. Whether it seems curious or nervous, and so it's important to watch the bears and what signals they're giving you. So I have a question about the boars.
Sure.
Now they don't come to camp very often. They're here when they're mating, usually mating season. Um, Tell us a little bit about your encounters with 747, who is our largest bear.
Yeah. So earlier this year, mating season, the the female I saw him following quite a bit was 82, Brett, and sh- she'd bring him through camps. So a lot of them, like you said, the males, they generally don't come through here. We don't see them except for during the mating season when the females will bring them through because they're following the female, and so he was around quite a bit. He walked through camp, and sometimes he was by himself, maybe looking at the female. But I did try to haze him a few times. He did not react at all. No
Oh,
reaction. He didn't pay any attention to me.
I
He's
think
not
that,
concerned.
uh,
While other bears, if they have he hasn't been hazed much at all, at least recently. Maybe as a subadult back in the day, but subadults when they're first on their own, we just show up and they run away. That's their reaction. But
yeah. No, it's amazing because he's like, why should he pay attention to you?
right,
You know,
exactly.
he's weighs, 8 times what you do.
Yeah, yep.
So, what is that little flea
Hmm.
trying to do to me? I think that's really interesting. Do you have we're gonna wrap up soon, but do you
Okay.
have a favorite bear that you like to encounter when you're,
Um,
or,
yeah, so I'd say, the last 2 years, a bear, I don't know if I like to encounter her, but I've learned to, appreciate her and like just her unique behavior. But it's 901,
oh yeah,
284's daughter, and she spends a lot of time around camp, sleeps just outside of camp. A lot of times at night she'll sleep in camp. I've seen her, with a lot of the beds around camp are from her. Um, so we get to know her a lot, just her way of going about things. And I rarely see her play with other bears. Always see her have these, discussions with other bears,
yeah.
while other subadults will, play a lot. And then she also does this weird, um, occasionally she'll like shake her head wildly when she's being hazed and hit the ground, but it doesn't seem to me it's not aggressive. I don't feel like,
Mhm.
and it's just interesting.
Is it similar
Kind of
to what her mother does?
no, because she doesn't stand, so her mom stands and comes down. Um, yeah, 901, like we learn her routine of like sleeping in the campground, walk the beach, and she does that a few times every day, a lot. And yeah, so and also what's interesting about her is she chase bears that are bigger than her, and I've seen her chase two bears, sleeping bears that were much bigger than her, subadults, and she chased them. They were very scared of her. So it's just like her mom. She's got attitude. It's probably from learning, from 284, but also there could be some genetics there that just make her disposition is that way as
So,
well.
so I'm gonna do one quick question and then we'll wrap up, is, so Grazer's emancipated cubs, now subadults, are around, and seen them exhibit any similar behaviors to Grazer?
No, and those are ones that I don't see that often. Like the subadults this year that I see the most, like 901, 909, 910, 482s, recently emancipated cubs, and 402s. Um, but so I just don't see them enough down here to kind of get a gauge what their behavior is like. Um,
Okay. Oh, Nick, this was really great. I mean, insight into something that I don't get to see all the time, and an
mhm.
understanding of bears. I mean, you are working with bears directly every day, so you have a great understanding. So we're going to switch places.
Okay.
You come
Yeah.
behind the camera, and I'm
All
going to
right.
go in front.
Take care, everyone.
This is one of my favorite chats. I learn so much whenever I talk to Nick. Sometimes Nick and I will just around camp talk for far too long, being late for other things. Um, but understanding bears is a lot of watching, a lot of learning. Nick reads a lot, does a lot of research about bears, and you all are citizen scientists of bears and learn a lot by watching. So maybe some of the things that Nick talked about will help you in your viewing and your citizen science data. So I really want to thank Nick for being here today and joining us for this chat. We are going to have a very exciting chat on Friday. We are revealing the brackets for Fat Bear Week. So this could be the fattest Fat Bear Week ever. We had quite a season. So Nick is laughing. Tune in on Friday, noon Alaska time, and double check that on Explore. I'll be with Ranger Brooklyn and Mike Fitz, Explore.org's resident naturalist, and we want to thank Explore for making these cams possible and making this chat possible, and of course Katmai National Park and Preserve for all that it does for this ecosystem and these bears. I am Ranger Naomi, and thank you for joining me today. And I look forward to seeing you on Friday. Thank you.